In 2002, a man named Jack Whittaker won $314 million playing Powerball in West Virginia. Within 5 years, his marriage was over. His granddaughter was dead from an overdose, and he told reporters he wished he'd torn up the ticket. Meanwhile, a nurse in Missouri named Sandra Hayes won $224 million in that same year with a group of coworkers. And over a decade later, she's still financially secure, still grounded, and still living a life that most people would call normal. Same year, same rough age, same life-changing amount of money, completely different outcomes. So what's the difference between them? Here's a question for you before we go any further. If you won a massive jackpot tomorrow morning, what is the very first phone call you would make? Would it be your mom? Your best friend? A lawyer you've never met? Drop your answer in the comments, because by the end of this video, you might realize that phone call is more important than you think. Before we get into it, if you're someone who finds these real money stories fascinating, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and send this to that one friend who always jokes about what they'd do if they won the lottery. Trust me, they need to see this one. Winning a jackpot sounds like the end of every problem you've ever had. In reality, for a huge number of winners, it's the beginning of a whole new set of problems nobody warns you about. Financial researchers who study lottery winners have found that a disturbing percentage of large jackpot winners end up broke, sued, divorced, or worse within just a few years. Not because the money wasn't enough, but because of what they did or didn't do in the very first hours after winning. So today, we're breaking down 8 things that smart jackpot winners do within the first 24 hours, using real stories, real names, and real numbers, so you can see exactly what separates the winners who kept their fortune from the ones who lost everything. Let's start with the very first thing almost every financial advisor who works with lottery winners will tell you. Do not tell anyone right away. Not your best friend, not your siblings, not your coworkers. Manuel Franco, a 24-year-old from West Allis, Wisconsin, won $768 million in the Powerball drawing in March of 2019, one of the largest jackpots in American history at the time. Before he ever spoke to a single reporter, before extended family even knew, he had already assembled a team, a financial advisor, an attorney, and an accountant. He didn't announce anything on social media. He didn't call the local news. He quietly locked down his ticket and got professional help before the world knew his name. Compare that to countless smaller stories you don't hear about on the news. Regular people who won 6- or 7-figure prizes and immediately told their entire friend group at the bar that same night. Within days, they had ex-friends asking for loans, distant cousins reappearing out of nowhere, and neighbors treating them differently. Silence in the first 24 hours isn't paranoia, it's protection. The second thing smart winners do, and this one sounds almost too simple to matter, is sign the back of the ticket immediately and make copies of it. In most states and countries, a lottery ticket is treated like cash. Whoever's name is on it, or in some cases, whoever physically holds it, can claim the prize. There have been real, documented cases of winning tickets being stolen, lost, or fought over in court because the original winner never signed it right away. Signing your ticket the moment you realize you've won, then photographing it and storing copies in multiple secure places is the single easiest way to protect proof of ownership before you do anything else. Third, smart winners take a breath and slow down before making a single big decision. This sounds obvious, but it's the step most people skip. There is something psychologists call sudden wealth syndrome. It's the disorientation, anxiety, and impulsive decision-making that hits people when they suddenly acquire a huge amount of money they weren't prepared for. The brain simply isn't built to process that kind of shift overnight. Financial planners who specialize in working with winners almost universally recommend doing nothing drastic for at least the first several days. No quitting your job dramatically. No buying a house on a whim. No wiring money to family. Just breathe and let the shock pass before decisions get made. Now, here's where the real case studies get interesting, because this next lesson comes from one of the most talked about lottery stories in American history. Abraham Shakespeare, a truck driver from Lakeland, Florida, won a $30 million lump sum jackpot in 2006. Within a few years, a woman named Doris Moore had inserted herself into his life, claiming to be helping him manage his newfound fame and money. She eventually convinced him to sign over control of large portions of his fortune. In 2009, Abraham disappeared. His body was later found buried in Moore's backyard. She was convicted of his murder in 2012. This case is extreme, tragic, and it's also a brutal reminder of the fourth thing smart winners do in the first 24 hours. They do not let anyone new into their inner circle, no matter how friendly or helpful that person seems to be. Sudden wealth attracts people, and not all of them have good intentions. The safest move a winner can make is to keep their existing trusted circle small and be deeply suspicious of any new relationships that appear right after the win becomes public. The fifth thing smart winners do is hire a team of professionals before they even claim the prize. This typically means a financial advisor who specializes in sudden wealth, an attorney familiar with lottery law in their state or country, and a certified public accountant who understands the tax implications of a massive lump sum. In the United States, lottery winnings are taxed as ordinary income, and depending on the state, that can mean handing over anywhere from 24% to nearly 50% of the total prize before a single dollar hits a bank account. Manuel Franco, the Wisconsin winner we mentioned earlier, is a textbook example of doing this right. He built his team quietly, structured his claim properly, and to this day remains one of the few massive jackpot winners who has stayed financially stable years later. Here's my honest opinion on this part, and I think it's something people underestimate. Most people assume winning the lottery is a math problem. Get the number, collect the cash, done. But it's actually a psychology problem wearing a math costume. The money is simple. Managing the sudden attention, the family dynamics, the emotional pressure from people who suddenly know your net worth. That's the actual challenge. If you ask me, the winners who succeed long-term aren't necessarily the smartest with numbers. They're the ones who understood, from hour one, that they were about to become a target, and they prepared accordingly. The sixth thing smart winners do within the first day is decide, calmly and with professional advice, whether to take the lump sum or the annuity option. And they do this before public excitement pressures them into a rushed choice. Most major jackpots offer a choice between a smaller lump sum paid immediately or the full advertised amount paid out over 29 or 30 years through an annuity. Jack Whittaker, the West Virginia winner from earlier in this video, took the lump sum option on his $314 million Powerball win back in 2002. He received roughly $93 million after the lump sum reduction, and after taxes, that number dropped even further. Within just a few years, due to a combination of lawsuits, theft, family tragedy, and his own admitted struggles with alcohol, a huge portion of that fortune was gone. Meanwhile, other winners who have chosen the annuity option, receiving smaller guaranteed payments every year instead of one giant sum, have often reported feeling more financially secure over time, simply because the structure protects them from blowing through the entire fortune at once. There's no universally right answer between lump sum and annuity, but smart winners make that decision with expert guidance, not gut instinct, and definitely not within the first few emotional hours of realizing they won. The seventh thing smart winners do is set up legal structures like trusts before claiming the prize publicly, especially in states or countries where winners are allowed to remain anonymous. This is a big one. In several U.S. states, winners can claim their prize through a specially formed trust or legal entity instead of using their personal name, which keeps their identity out of public record. This single move can be the difference between a quiet, private life after winning and years of unwanted attention, strangers showing up at your house, and a flood of requests for money from people you've never met. Some winners in states that require public disclosure have talked openly about regretting how quickly their information became public, describing an overwhelming wave of letters, calls, and even people showing up at their front door within days of the announcement. Setting up the right legal structure before claiming isn't about hiding from taxes or doing anything shady. It's about protecting your peace of mind, which once it's gone after a big public win is almost impossible to fully get back. And the eighth thing smart winners do, maybe the most overlooked one of all, is they resist the urge to say yes to everyone right away. This is where William Bud Post comes into the story, a Pennsylvania man who won $16.2 million back in 1988. Bud Post has become one of the most cited cautionary tales in lottery history. Within a year of winning, he was already in serious financial trouble. His own brother was reportedly involved in a plot related to the winnings. Relatives sued him for a share of the money. A former girlfriend also filed a claim against his winnings. He ended up declaring bankruptcy just a few years after becoming a multimillionaire, and he was famously quoted saying that winning the lottery was, in his words, a nightmare, not a blessing. Bud Post said yes too often, too fast, to too many people, before he had any system in place to protect himself or his money. Smart winners, by contrast, take the first 24 to 48 hours to build a simple rule for themselves. Nothing gets promised, nothing gets given, and nothing gets loaned until the full financial plan is in place with professional guidance. Now here's another piece of my own perspective on this whole topic, because I think it matters. People love to judge lottery winners who go broke, calling them careless or foolish. But here's the thing nobody talks about enough. Most of these winners are regular working-class people, truck drivers, nurses, factory workers, who never had access to serious financial education or wealth management in the first place. Nobody teaches you how to handle 9 figures in a public school system. So when someone like Abraham Shakespeare or Bud Post loses everything, it's not really a story about stupidity. It's a story about a system that hands ordinary people extraordinary money with zero preparation and then acts surprised when things go wrong. If you ask me, that's the real lesson hiding underneath all of these headlines. It's not that these people were bad with money. It's that nobody ever taught them how to defend it. Now let's circle back to Sandra Hayes for a second, because her story deserves more attention than it usually gets. When she and her coworkers split that $224 million Powerball jackpot back in 2006, she immediately did several of the things we just talked about. She got legal and financial advice early. She was deliberate about who she let into her life. She didn't make any wild, sudden purchases. She has spoken publicly about how she focused on stability rather than flash, choosing to invest wisely and live within a sustainable version of her new reality, instead of chasing a lifestyle that would drain the winnings within a few years. Her story is proof that the outcome of a lottery win isn't determined by luck twice. It's determined by discipline in those very first hours and days, when the excitement is at its highest and the temptation to make emotional decisions is at its strongest. So let's bring this all together. Sign your ticket immediately and secure copies of it. Stay silent about your win until you have professional guidance in place. Slow down and resist every urge to make big decisions in the first few days. Keep your existing circle small and be wary of anyone new who suddenly appears in your life. Build a real team, a financial advisor, an attorney, and an accountant before you ever officially claim the prize. Choose between the lump sum and the annuity with expert advice, not emotion. Explore legal structures like trusts if your state or country allows for private claiming. And finally, resist the pressure to say yes to every request for money until you actually have a plan. At the end of the day, a jackpot doesn't change who you are. It just puts a spotlight on it. And it puts a stress test on every relationship and every decision-making habit you already had. The winners who come out ahead years later aren't the luckiest ones. They're the ones who treated those first 24 hours like the most important 24 hours of their entire financial life. because in a very real way, they were. If this video gave you something to think about, do me a favor and hit like right now. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next real money story. And share this with someone who always says they know exactly what they'd do if they won big. Because after watching this, I think they'll realize there's a lot more to it than just picking the right numbers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.